Uh, they were here yesterday. I wasn't. I'm lucky I made it in today, and after about the first 45 minutes of practice, I was sicker than I was before I got here. So, but this is probably always it's probably always the most difficult time of the year. You know, partly because of the travel, partly because of what's involved in, going home and then having to, you're probably always torn about coming back, So this is always the time when you worry the most about how long is it going to take us to get back into the swing of things, because it's kind of like not unlike the NCAA tournament, when you just finish your conference tournament and you feel like you're playing really, really well, and then all of a sudden you got to wait a week, and then you got to wait even longer to play actually a game. So in some ways, we're in pretty good shape, at least. We got a couple guys that are a little bit under the weather, but we seem to be in pretty decent shape.
What do you remember last year about what Brianna Jones got done against you guys?
Mostly probably the same thing that she does to everybody else in the country. She's really difficult to keep out of the lane. I know that Tuck is pretty strong and pretty physical, and she couldn't keep her out of the lane and do anything with her. And Stewie just wasn't physical enough, big enough to handle her. And we're probably in a similar situation this year, except maybe for Nat a little bit. I think it's a really difficult matchup for us. I mean, we've played some good post players, but I don't know that we've faced anybody that big and that physical this year. So she was very difficult last year, and she'll be even more difficult this year because she's a year older and a little bit better.
It seems like teams would start to come out, okay, we're going to exploit their lack of height, and they do it for a few minutes, and then they give up on it. You got to expect Maryland's not going to do that. They're going to be feeding that kid for as long as she's in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best strategy for them, is just to keep doing what they've been doing. They're not going to change what they do just because of us. So I think they didn't have any problem going right at Stewie at Tuck, and we don't have nearly that. So I can't imagine that they're going to do anything different. Watching them on film, they're way more athletic than they remind me a lot of Ohio State. They're way more athletic, and they get to the free throw line a lot. Kimbrough just is one of the best shooters in the country. I mean, she might be one of the best players in the country. So it's not like they're a one-dimensional team, and they're at home. So there's nothing that I can think of that's going to be like, oh yeah, we got a huge advantage in this game. It's not going to be easy.
How do you like what Kauke is kind of embracing? She's just being more vocal, and I think at the beginning of the season she was trying to figure out what should I do, how should I handle it. It seems like the last week or two she seems a lot more comfortable in directing people and acting like a kid that's played the most basketball on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning Kia tried to put a lot more on her shoulders than she needed to. I think she felt coming off of last year and given who we had graduated, that it was naturally her obligation to do all that. And so I think that was very difficult for her in the beginning. And tried to do way too much, way more than she needed to do. And I think she settled in a little bit. You know, we're running some different stuff where we're running a couple more set plays that kind of take some of the pressure off of her. You know, hopefully, you know, with each game that we play, she gets even more comfortable. But she's too good a player to struggle for long. I mean, she's much too competitive to give up on herself. So, you know, I just don't like when she thinks she's got to do way more than we think she should be able to do.
Well, doesn't a lot of that pressure go away if Gabby and Nafisa and Katie Lou do what they're doing?
Some of it. It doesn't go away that much when some of your guards are either hurt or not playing, and then it all falls on you. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that Kia ever. Hopefully, she didn't think that, you know, her job was to lead the team in scoring and steals and assists and all that. But obviously, you know, if those other three continue doing what they're doing right now, it makes everybody's job easier. It makes everybody feel more comfortable.
Will Sanaya be back in the starting lineup?
You know, she's looked really good. You know, I think I hate to ever have a kid lose their job because they got hurt. You know, so you know, if she's back to 100%, and she certainly looks like she is, then I don't see why she wouldn't be.
How's Crystal look the last day or so?
No, Crystal's, I don't know if you can say she's a typical freshman or not, but there's always, you always get two sides of Crystal. You know, you get the one that you go, wow, you know, and then you get the one where she's very immature, you know, and that's why I said, I guess you got to be patient with freshmen. But I mean, patience is a good thing to a point, you know, to a point. I think the more patient you are with people, the longer they take. You know, there comes a point where when you're a little bit impatient, they hurry up. So.
Any thoughts or comments on Bob's situation, even though it is football or anything?
Nah, I mean, I really don't. It's part of life, you know. I was trying to explain that to our players. You know, obviously they're pretty good friends with, you know, a lot of the guys on the team, and I don't get into that part of it, but. You know, that's the real world. You know, sometimes when you're playing college sports, you're living in a little bubble, you know, and you're like in this fantasy world. You get up in the morning and everything you want every day is given to you. You know, there's nothing that you want for. And then something like that, just, I explained it to them. That's a reminder that when they leave here and they get in the real world and you're being evaluated on your performance, that's what happens. And the sooner they learn that and the sooner they understand that, I think that helps them and it helps everybody. I mean, it's, you know, college athletics is in some ways not that much different than the real world anymore. You know, we pretend we're in a bubble here. We pretend we're in fantasy land. But the more you look at this, the longer you're in it, the more you realize this is like the real world. And real world things happen.
What about
It's
the
unfortunate.
leadership with David and Vic and Beth? Is you encouraged by that trio in particular, leading this search, and then they have a lot of experience and a lot of different roles under their belt.
Well, obviously I wasn't privy to any of the conversations leading up to the decision that was made, but ever since Dave's been here, all my conversations with him have been unbelievably enlightening for me, in that he has a really good handle on what this is about, what we're trying to do, the challenges that are ahead of us. I think when you think about taking the job at Connecticut as an athletic director, the last couple of years, you're thinking, it's mostly upside. We win a bunch of games, we continue to win championships, and the football team keeps moving forward. Things happen, around the country, and you end up, and then all of a sudden, you're here and you're faced with a lot of challenges. And I, being around him a little bit, he's amazing, and the team that he's assembled here is really, really good. And he's not afraid to surround himself with people that are really, really good at what they do. And he allows them to be really good at what they do. And he and Beth and Vic certainly have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the football world. So I don't expect my phone to be ringing going, you have any suggestions? Thank you. But, when I heard that there wasn't going to be a search firm, I kind of smiled, and I was pretty excited about that. I think it's gotten a little bit crazy, so I think, hey, you're always rolling the dice, right? You're always rolling the dice. You never know. When you recommend somebody for a job, or when you hire somebody for a job. It is kind of, what they tell you about the stock market. Past performance is no indication of future success. You just don't know. You got to cross your fingers and hope you get it right. And unfortunately, we're judged on whether we get it right or not. How do you know if you got it right? Well, we'll know in a couple of years.
How was the search committee that hired you?
The search committee that hired me was pretty good. It was pretty good. They had a plan going in, and they had to go to Plan B. They hired me. Plan A didn't work out. Either the person they wanted or the person that they thought they wanted, they ended up not wanting. I don't think they had search firms back then. I think the AD got around and said, hey, anybody know anything about women's basketball? I do. Okay, find me a coach.
Were you closer to any of those guys, any assistants over the other ones, or were you kind of
they were all new, pretty much. I didn't know any of them. I'm probably closer to Frank Spagnola than I am to any of the, and he's the defensive coordinator of the Giants, and he's been gone from UConn a long time, than I am with any of the, recent guys that have been here. That's how much the world has changed, though. I thought about that on the ride over this morning. Like when, your staff and their families and everybody. It's a lot involved. It's not just, that simple. Going on talk radio or going on a chat room and going, fire this guy, fire that guy, fire this guy. It's a lot more. It's a lot more into that. It's a lot more into that. And,
Everybody always talks about Notre Dame being your arch nemesis and your toughest opponent, but Maryland has really played you as tough as anybody has the last couple of years, haven't they?
yeah, we've had some great battles with them. Last year being one of them. It was a lot easier to play against them when we had Steph. But certainly, we've played them, playing them in the Final Four recently, and they're a really talented team, and they're well coached, and every year they're one of the teams that everybody knows. They have a ton of talent. I know Brenda's always complaining about we have too many All-Americans on our team. She should have passed up on the opportunity to recruit some of the ones she has. But she realized you can win a lot more games if you have a bunch of them than if you don't have any of them. So they've done a pretty good job recruiting, and they do a pretty good job of coaching them.
Well, you lost Stewie, Tuck, and Mariah, but they lost Chloe.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a good trade. That's a good trade. I don't even know who else they lost. Who else did they lose?
Mosley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is that an awkward situation? I know you went through a little bit with Jazz last year or 2 years ago with Vanderbilt when you have one of the kids on your staff that still knows those players, and then you're going up against the team that you played for. What do you think the emotions are, the vibe is when you're that person?
It's probably twofold. I think there's a natural attachment that you have to your old school and your old coaches and your old team. And I'm not going to put her in a situation where, I'm sitting down, or neither are the other coaches. So Chloe, tell me, we're not going to do that, and I just think that hopefully there's a part of her that wants Maryland to play great and have a great showing, and I think there's hopefully a big part of her that wants us to win, and I think anything other than that would probably not, she wouldn't be honest, but yeah, it was the same thing with Jazz. You're not really gonna put them in a tough situation like that.
You like what she's contributing to you guys?
Chloe, yeah, she's been good. She's been good. It's not, it's not easy. The hardest part about going from a player to that position that she's in right now is you're not really a coach and you're not a player. So you're walking around, you're hanging around with the players, and the coach is looking at you like, "What's wrong with you?" And if you're hanging around with the coaches, the players are going, "Shh, don't say anything. Here comes the coach." So you really got a tough line to walk when you're in that job until you've been in it for a while, and then you get a chance to. Like Jazz was pretty good at it, but it takes time. It takes time.